and say, "Go to your room now. You go to your room."
Wait, that's saying I've become a mass murderer.
Okay,
I
swiftly
see.
moving on.
I'm just like... Prepare yourselves.
With the Rings of Power in play now, we get to see how various characters react to coming into possession with them. If you yourself ran into one of the rings, how do you think you would react? Or like, which character from the Lord of the Rings franchise do you think you'd react the most similar to?
Oh, probably Gollum. Yeah, you do have a lot of Gollum about
I've become
you.
obsessed. I've become
Yeah.
yeah.
I would probably be. I have to say Sauron. I think. Like I. Wait, that's saying I've become a mass murderer. Maybe. You know.
Who knows? These rings are, who knows what they'll do.
I think. Are you asking like what the power would be, or what would happen to us?
Like, what would happen to you guys? Do you think you'd be overtaken by it? Do you think you'd be able to go throw it in the volcano?
Yeah,
What do you
Depends what
think
it
would happen?
did. I mean, because they all do different things, right? And they play on facets of your character.
Yeah, I think I'd become overpowered by it quite quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Gollum.
Yeah.
Yeah. The answer is both of us.
We're both Gollums.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I would say Boromir, for sure, when he just can't... You're talking about me, Sam?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that in the world, in Tolkien's world, that the power of the ring, you just don't know what it's going to feel like till you get it. And you think, oh, well, I'm just going to take it and carry it to somewhere else.
Yeah.
But it's got you in its clutches already. It's so powerful.
I think I
It's
really
interesting.
relate to where they're like, maybe we should leave it with Tom Bombadil. It doesn't seem to affect him at all. And they're like, he'd just lose it. That's unfortunately what I think I'd be.
Yeah.
Or Gollum.
These are great questions.
Whoa.
I just have to say.
Thank you.
Creative.
I feel like I would be corrupted by any ring, I feel, unfortunately.
I'm trying to think, what would my reaction? Which character would my react? Why do I
This is
think
a
it
really
would be
difficult
like
question.
Gollum?
I
I think
would
I would just
love
become
that.
so, because it's difficult, right? It's difficult to kind of ignore and dismiss the power of the ring. I feel like we all like to think that we'd be
Yeah, but actually...
we'd be okay, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I think I'd go down a really bad,
Yeah,
dark
insular,
spiral.
very dark route. Yeah, no, I agree.
Gollum? Yeah, I mean, Schmeagol probably? I mean, I think the reality, if you really know the lore, it's a bit of there but for the grace of Tolkien go I. The evil is so formidable and so embedded in all of us, and I think, we see it with the elves. It's arrogant to assume that we too would throw it into the fire.
Yes.
Look at humanity today. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about Tolkien, is that those that don't, it's one of the most beautiful and in-depth characterizations of bravery that unfortunately probably isn't that self-evident in the world that we actually live in.
I like to think that he would be aligned with also someone becoming evil, especially. Wait, is it me or is it my character?
I think it's you.
Well, he.
Who?
That's the thing. I think it's inevitable almost to be more towards an evil side of things. Like the
True power?
The pull is so strong. Like
The dark side, man.
Absolutely. And the things like the definition of evil, it's like evil, good. You're always thinking that the problem is that you're thinking you're doing absolute good. So even when you think that you're doing absolute good, you will still be veering towards evil. So like, I have power to do this, this, and that, to lead, to save, to, you would have eventually become a tyrant,
Yeah.
And also where we find Middle Earth, we have to remember that this is new technology. So just to piggyback on your question, the idea of what would you do? Well, how would you know how powerful they are?
Yeah.
It's a horrible combination of the manifestation of evil, a naive tendency, and the fallibility of humanity. So it's going to be a mess either way.
This is the work of Sauron.
In the trailer, we kind of get to see Celebrimbor like really being taken over and driven mad by working with Sauron. I was curious if you guys could talk a bit about figuring out what it would look like visually when it came to showing that downfall. Because in the trailers, it almost looks like a horror movie, which I love.
It is very much a descent into a horror movie. And that set that they're in, the Celebrimbor's workshop, really, it's an amazing set designed by our production designer, Christian Milstead, but it is almost like a character this season because it needed to have so many feelings and iterations. In the beginning, it feels a little like a cathedral. It's beautiful and welcoming. It's the representation of these dreams and hopes that Celebrimbor's had for the work he's going to do. And as it goes along, it becomes
a prison,
and then maybe even a torture chamber in some ways. And he can't escape it. And it's an amazing story, and it was worked on by our amazing team of DPs and directors to iterate across the season to have its own journey alongside these two characters, Celebrimbor and Sauron, who are in this psychological battle.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say that. I think, we talked about this storyline having a very different flavor than anything we did season 1. We knew season 2 was going to be darker. I think none of us quite reckoned with how dark it would go, and I think audiences might be surprised by the end. I say that, but who knows?
We often ask ourselves if it's
too far.
What's too far, and how dark it is. So it'll be interesting to see what people say.
But the idea that it would become this thriller, this two-hander, and this descent, that was the intention from the beginning, and the look of it, whether it's costumes, hair and makeup, the injuries characters suffer, the prosthetics required to dramatize those injuries, that's all a part of bringing it to life in hopefully thrilling and disturbing fashion.
Sooner or later, Sauron's eye bores a hole. The rest of him slithers in.
And the other relationship I'm interested in after seeing the newest trailer is you guys. There's a shot in the trailer of Adar and Galadriel walking together, and it kind of feels like they could be headed down the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of route.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said it then. That's, we've got to kind of explore the possibilities of combining power against evil.
Yeah.
And see what we can do, because we're all under threat. So it's a very frayed relationship to start with, and I don't think the elves and the orcs are not friends, and so it's sort of very tentative exploration of what we can do together.
And Adar understands her in a way that her elves don't, because he's been deceived by Sauron. So they're bound by they're bound by their lowest point, which is always tough.
I can help you destroy him.
I will not stop until this is put right.
I was also wondering, for all three of you, since your guys' characters are really in their own story and isolated, if you could put your character into another storyline that's happening in the show, which one would you put it in?
Well, just for fun?
Yeah, just for fun. Which one would you love to see your character kind of popping around, interacting with other characters in?
I would love to see Poppy and Numenor. Can you imagine the Great Hall?
Yes.
I think that'd be really funny. Actually, there was a time when we were filming in season 1 and we walked through Numenor to surprise the Numenorians who were filming, and we were in our costumes, so that was we actually were there. It was quite funny.
That was quite hilarious.
You could have a lot of scale as well. It would be quite cool.
Yeah, that would
be
be
It would be exciting.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
I can imagine you scurrying around, sort of furtively trying not to get caught.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I saw something with a lot of mud in it. There was a bit in a trailer, or there was something where Maxim and Ismael were in mud, and I did think the Stranger's so sort of under the cosh in terms of just being in the elements. I love the idea of a bit more mud, sucked through a vortex of, dirty earth.
Get in there.
Yeah, really
Cool,
get in there.
nice.
Let's go the whole hog.
I have walked across mountains and deserts to help my friend find his destiny.
In episode 2, I loved the scene when Poppy and Nori are going back and forth about what the stranger's name could be.
Oh, yeah. Doderick. Andwise? Fredegar.
Because that's something I think about all the time.
Yeah.
I was wondering if, as actors, if you guys have come up with any possible names that he could have, whether you know it now or not. At the time, had you thought of any?
Whoa!
Oh my gosh, that's a brilliant question.
Oh my god, what have you been thinking about? This might hint some things.
Great.
I've been just trying to figure out if he's a wizard I already know or not.
Oh,
you know?
I see what you're saying. Okay, swiftly moving on. I quite liked some of the names, I will say, that the characters came up with on the day.
Yeah.
I quite liked Doderick.
Doderick was great.
Which just was poorly received by both of these.
But also in Nori's accent as well, like her voice.
Yeah.
It sounded really lovely.
And Charlie, I have to ask about getting to say the name of the show and the name of the franchise in episode 2.
The darkness is growing stronger, and the rings of power are our last hope of restoring the light.
And when our work is complete, never again will the world overlook you, but forevermore revere you. The Lord of the Rings.
What was it like getting to perform that epic monologue, but also getting to say those iconic words in the show? Did you feel any pressure when you got the script for that?
Yeah, I think because that, if I'm not mistaken, that's when I say it when I'm not visible, right? You're walking through. And so I've recorded that voiceover 20 times. And I remember I recorded it on set, and I said it through a God microphone when he was doing the acting, but they didn't use that because I think it was cool. And then I recorded some temp stuff, and then I went into a booth and recorded it in thousands of different ways. So it's kind of, I was lucky that I could re-record it over and over again, because when you're saying the title of the show, you know that it's going to be an important line. So it's nice to give them variations.
Yeah.
I freaked out when I saw that.
Great.
We freaked out on set when it happened. So
yes,
you're in good company.
I believe it. I was wondering if you guys could break down what it was like how you decided then was the right time to name drop both things, because that's a huge moment.
Well, it all comes down to character, right? The scenario is coming from the mythology, the idea that, Sauron presents as Annatar and deceives Celebrimbor into making the rings. But when it came down to, the scene work in there, what we're really thinking about, and the god we're really praying to is, if we were in Celebrimbor's shoes, he cannot be stupid. He cannot be gulled. Sauron has to earn it. Celebrimbor is very smart. He's a genius. And so Sauron needed to up his game and present in such a way that blew Celebrimbor's mind. And, the final shot that you saw is the product of, many, many months of iteration on costume, on the look, performance, rehearsals, but then also there's a bit of a light show happening, right? Lindsey calls it the fan dance. Charles Edwards, who plays Celebrimbor, when he's on set and he's going, and he's agog, every now and then someone will say is he over the top? Or no. When you see
what
is exactly,
what he's looking at,
it will make sense. And but it had to, because this is the moment he is won over and sort of set on the path that will end in, well, stay tuned.
It was because of the nature of the set that we were filming on, we could do it all pretty much in one go. I can't remember how many cuts there are within that, other than cutting back to the flame, but when it first happens, the forge roars and I'm up on the top balcony. He's disappeared at this point.
I was watching. Oh, you mean not Sal?
No, Halbrand's disappeared.
Oh, yeah.
And I go, Halbrand, and then the camera, I think, followed me all the way down the steps, which is tricky in long robes, because as an elf, you're not supposed to look down when you walk down the steps. It's all very well for them to say that, but then get them to do it. Anyway, so then you get to the bottom, and then the camera's still. So it was all in one go, and the reactions are as you see them, and everything happened. And the fire was major. And we're going, my God! And I'm walking towards. They're going, closer, Charlie, closer. I go, you sure? You sure? Because it was really, But
quite a few firemen on set that day.
There were firemen on set that day. Yeah.
Then that first scene in episode 1, when Gil-galad, Elrond, and Galadriel are talking about what they're going to do with the rings, and Elrond ultimately jumps off the waterfall with them.
Right.
I was wondering if you could talk to me.
They're bickering like children.
And what frailty blinded you, Elrond?
Not Dinan.
What other path did your failure, Khazad-dûm, leave us with but this?
You were my friend! Dinan!
Exactly. I was wondering if you could talk to me a bit about what it was like filming that scene on that day, and what was kind of going through Gil-galad's mind when Elrond decided to just throw himself off the waterfall with all the rings.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite parts of Gil-galad and a nice little nugget that I feel like sums up his character at this point is the Elvish word grach, which is an Elvish swear that means crap or come on. I think he's about as frustrated as we've seen him at this point, kind of like like a parent of like so I think he's frustrated. And in terms of shooting on that day, they're both such great actors, and it was exhilarating to kind of have to step in between them and say, go to your room, now you go to your room. Not off the waterfall. I meant, grach. It was exhilarating.
That final scene, I believe it's in episode 2, when it's revealed that Elrond is going to lead the task force that Galadriel is part of.
Elrond's task is not to join your company, but to lead it.
Mm-hmm. What was going through your character's mind at that moment when that was announced?
Yes, that was painful for her. And I think I really enjoyed exploring kind of their relationship, because it's so terrible to feel a sense of otherness from someone you feel that you're so close to and that you're always on the same page with. And, these are also the times where you kind of really have to work to make bridges and find a way that you can get to each other. Galadriel is doing something risky and dangerous, but she knows she needs to do it because she's the only one of them that's really seen the darkness that's coming. And Elrond is trying to protect. So they both have really worthy causes. And yeah, I just get super excited when Galadriel and Elrond are together, also that I'm just like, they're both characters that I kind of just love. And I felt for them not being at odds. But also it's kind of important for Middle-earth for them to be at odds.
Daniel, the scene in, I believe it's episode 2, when the stranger does magic and Poppy and Nori kind of get sucked away from him. What was it like filming that day? And now as we move forward past episodes 2 and 3, how is that moment going to impact your character moving forward?
Yes, we shot that in 2 locations, didn't we? We did a bit of it in studio and a bit of it on location in Tenerife. In Tenerife, we didn't need much special effects because there was wind channeling up through this. We were sort of in this canyon, and the wind was sort of channeling straight up through all this sand that was obviously there. And the whole crew, when we looked out, the whole crew were in these wonderful glasses, these sort of protector glasses. They were sort of tinted, weren't they? So they all looked uber sort of
cool
action figures.
Yeah.
And then the 3 of us were sort of there with no goggles. Or we were allowed to wear the
No,
goggles.
we were allowed, but you decided not to.
No, but in the takes, we obviously had to
take
them
we
off.
had to, yeah.
And so in the takes, you'd suddenly get going, and then these wind machines would come and they start throwing extra sand in. And by the end of it, I mean, I definitely was, I was like, please pour some water in my eyes, please put some, and medic over here.
Yeah.
So it was pretty phenomenal to do it, and the location stuff we did in Tenerife was so awesome.
Yeah.
Helped to root. I didn't feel like we need to do a whole amount of acting because we looked out at these vistas and they were just endless lunar sort of landscapes that went on and on. Yeah, they were really impressive.